All right, good morning, everyone. Before we begin today's town board meeting, I would like to call attention to several exemplary high school students who embody what it means to be extraordinary. Each year, Newsday receives nominations from principals, teachers, and guidance counselors throughout Nassau and Suffolk, highlighting students who go above and beyond in pursuit of personal excellence and the greater good. This year, 7 students from Hempstead Town were chosen as part of Newsday's Extraordinary Seniors Series. 4 of them are with us today, and we would like to congratulate each of you for your noble aspirations and commitment to your education and to your community. First, we have Angelina Gatt from Division High School. Angelina was born with a rare inherited eye disorder that rendered her legally blind in her childhood. In 2013, she underwent experimental retinal gene therapy at the University of Iowa and was able to regain part of her vision. Since then, Angelina has been an advocate for the procedure and has even testified before the FDA, urging for its greater approval. We congratulate you and thank you, Angela, for your passion and determination in the face of diversity. Congratulations. All right, next we have Elmont senior Michael Laws. Michael has spent much of his young educational career fostering his love of science. He has published several articles in scholarly journals and has won first and second place, respectively, in the microbiology categories of this year's New York State and Long Island engineering fairs. Congratulations, Michael, on all of your success. Next, we have Sabera Hussain, a senior at East Meadow High School. Sabera has engaged in humanitarian tasks both at home and abroad, ranging from fighting poverty as president of her school's World Hunger Action Club and teaching English to underprivileged kids in Bangladesh. She has also been a treasurer and vice president of the school's Key Club, having been named a distinguished Key Clubber for her dedication to the organization by a local Kiwanis club. Thank you, Sabera, for your tremendous work and helping those in need. Congratulations. Finally, we have Kellenberg senior Manny Abreu. Manny has made community service an integral part of his life. An honors student from Roosevelt, Manny juggled volunteering with after-school, summer, and weekend jobs that included assisting with homework, computers, and printers at the Roosevelt Public Library, doing maintenance and landscape work at Kellenberg, and serving customers at Ralph's Italian Ices in Uniondale. It's easy to believe that the word vacation is not in Manny's vocabulary. During the winter break this past February, instead of lounging around the house, Manny traveled to downtown Brooklyn to help the Sisters of Life refurbish St. Andrew's Rectory into a feasible convent and workspace. Your community is very thankful to you, Manny, for all the contributions that you have put forward to the well-being of your neighbors and for yourself. Thank you so much, Manny, and congratulations. I'd now like to invite the council members to come down and come forward, and we'll take a photo. Where do you want to show? All right, good morning. Welcome everyone to today's town board meeting. For those of you who have never attended a meeting before, we will first have public hearings, followed by an administrative calendar. There are meeting agendas available in the rear of the pavilion. If you would like to be heard on any matter, please go to the rear of the pavilion and fill out a slip indicating what you would like to be heard on. After the meeting is adjourned, the town board will follow our custom of 350 years and remain in session to hear residents who would like to address the board on other matters. Today we have a very large calendar with almost 150 items on it, so we will be strictly adhering to the 3-minute time limit for speakers so we can move through the meeting and everybody can have an opportunity to be heard. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Supervisor Gillen.
Here.
Councilman Blakeman. Here. Councilman Diaz-Esposito.
I'm here.
Councilman Dunn. Councilman Dunn.
He's here.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby. Here. Councilwoman King-Sweeney. Here. Councilman Muscarella.
Yeah.
I'd now ask Councilman Blakeman to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
And join me, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If everyone would please remain standing, I'd like to observe a moment of silence to remember and commemorate the passing of Detective Luis Alvarez, who was a first responder at 9/11 and a passionate advocate for the rights of first responders to receive treatment. If we would all just have a moment of silence.
And if I could just follow up on that, Detective Alvarez was a member of the New York City Police Department, served in the Special Operations Unit assigned to the bomb squad on 9/11. And when we take an oath of office as New York City police officers and when we rise through the ranks, we always live by our motto, which is Fidelis ad mortem, which in Latin means faithful unto death. And there is nobody recently who has really lived that motto. Within the last week, he showed that to his very last breath, he was in fact Fidelis ad mortem. So to my brother detective, rest in peace.
I'd like to add to that.
Thank you, everyone. You may be seated. Madam Clerk, will you please call the first public hearing?
Petition of Commissioner of Buildings to demolish and remove the in-ground swimming pool and remove all litter and debris from property in East Meadow.
I do not have any slips on this public hearing. Is there anyone who'd like to be heard? Hearing none, may I have a motion? Madam Clerk?
Supervisor Gillen.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman. Aye. Councilman Diaz-Esposito. Aye. Councilman Dunn. Aye. Senior Councilwoman Gooseby. Aye. Councilwoman King-Sweeney. Aye. Councilman Muscarella.
Aye.
Madam Clerk, will you please call the next public hearing?
Petition of Commissioner of Buildings to demolish and remove a one-story frame family dwelling with attached garage and remove all litter and debris from the property in West Hempstead.
I do not have any slips on this public hearing. Is there anyone who'd like to be heard? Hearing none, may I have a motion?
I move that the hearing be closed and the petition be granted.
I second.
Madam Clerk?
Supervisor Gillen.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman. Aye. Councilman Diaz-Esposito. Aye. Councilman Dunn. Aye. Senior Councilwoman Gooseby. Aye. Councilwoman King-Sweeney. Aye. Councilman Muscarella.
Aye.
Madam Clerk, will you please call the next public hearing?
Petition of Commissioner of Buildings to demolish and remove the in-ground swimming pool and remove all litter and debris from the property in Woodmere.
I do not have any slips on this public hearing. Is there anyone who'd like to be heard? Hearing none, may I have a motion?
I move that the hearing be closed and that the petition be granted. Second.
Madam Clerk?
Supervisor Gillen.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman.
Aye.
Councilman Diaz-Esposito.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn. Senior Councilwoman Gooseby. Councilwoman King Sweeney. Councilwoman King Sweeney. Okay. Councilman Muscarella.
Aye.
Madam Clerk, please call our next public hearing.
Proposed local law regarding regulations and restrictions to limit parking in Baldwin, East Meadow, North Merrick, Oceanside, Roosevelt, and Uniondale.
I do not have any slips on this public hearing. Is there anyone who'd like to be heard?
Good morning, Pearl Jacobs, President of Nostrum Garden Civic Association, Uniondale. I have a question, first and foremost. The location in Uniondale.
Mr. Reed?
Morning, Supervisor, Town Board members, Tom Reed, representing Traffic Control. That issue in Uniondale is Cambria Street.
Cambria Street, okay. Also, I would like to pose a question, Commissioner, regarding, is there any semblance of traffic regulation or an office or traffic attendants that come and check these parking areas and the parking restrictions? There's a lot of problems in Uniondale regarding parking. I just received a text last night from a neighbor who lives in the proximity of the Coliseum, across the street from the Coliseum, and they literally removed her pole that with a no parking regulation from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m., I do believe. It was there for 30 years, and they removed the whole pole.
Okay, I'd be happy to get the location for you and look into it and see what the reasoning was that for, and if the signs need to go back, we can put them back.
Okay, my question is there any traffic agents or regulations that, do you have any sort of enforcement officers that come out and check the parking prohibitions?
Well, that would be the police department. If you see an issue with
So
parking.
you don't have traffic agents in the town?
Not in my department, no.
Does
We
the
just-
town?
We just put the signs up.
Does the town have traffic?
We have code enforcement people.
Okay, but that's for, is that for specifically for parking, or is it for buildings, or what?
Well, code enforcement does do some enforcement in the town parking lots, the railroad stations, but usually the residential streets are monitored by the local police department.
Okay, so I will give you that information, okay? And I will also report this to the police.
Any resident can ask for the removal of parking restrictions or ask.
Well, this sign has been in front of her home that she had, was there for 30 years. And you have to understand, she lives across the street from the Coliseum. And then she also has some issues with neighbors on her block who are, multiple family homes. And so that's the whole issue right there. So she wants the sign back, okay? Thank you.
I would ask if you would like to be heard on any matter, please fill out a slip in the back if you'd like to be heard. I do not have any other slips on this public hearing. Is there anybody else who'd like to be heard? Hearing none, may I have a motion? Madam Clerk?
Supervisor Gillen.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman. Councilman Diaz-Pasito. Councilman Dunn. Senior Councilwoman Gooseby. Councilwoman King Sweeney. Councilman Muscarella.
Aye.
Madam Clerk, please call our next public hearing.
Proposed local law regarding parking or standing prohibitions in Baldwin, East Meadow, Elmont, Inwood, North Merrick, Oceanside, and Uniondale.
I do not have any slips on this public hearing. Is there anyone who'd like to be heard? Hearing none, may I have a motion?
I second the motion.
Madam Clerk?
Supervisor Gillen.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman. Councilman Diaz-Pasito. Councilman Dunn. Senior Councilwoman Gooseby. Councilwoman King Sweeney. Councilman Muscarella.
Aye.
Madam Clerk, please call our next public hearing.
Proposed local law regarding arterial stops in Elmont.
I do not have any slips on this public hearing. Is there anyone who'd like to be heard? Hearing none, may I have a motion?
I move that the public hearing be closed and the item adopted.
Second.
Madam Clerk?
Supervisor Gillen.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman. Councilman Diaz-Pasito. Councilman Dunn. Senior Councilwoman Gooseby. Councilwoman King Sweeney. Councilman Muscarella.
Aye.
Madam Clerk, please call our next public hearing.
Proposed local law regarding bus stops in East Meadow and Oceanside.
I do not have any slips on this public hearing. Is there anyone who'd like to be heard? Hearing none, may I have a motion?
Second.
Madam Clerk?
Supervisor Gillen.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman. Councilman Diaz-Bazito. Councilman Dunn. Senior Councilwoman Gooseby.
Aye.
Councilwoman King Sweeney. Councilman Muscarella.
Aye.
Madam Clerk, please call our next public hearing.
Proposed local law regarding traffic regulations in the vicinity of schools in Uniondale.
I do not have any slips on this public hearing. Is there anyone who'd like to be heard? Hearing none, may I have a motion?
I move that we close the public hearing and accept the proposal.
Second.
Madam Clerk?
Supervisor Gillen.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman. Councilman Diaz-Bazito. Councilman Dunn. Senior Councilwoman Gooseby. Councilwoman King Sweeney. Councilman Muscarella.
Aye.
Madam Clerk, please call our next public hearing.
Proposed local law regarding U-turns prohibited in Hewlett.
I do not have any slips on this public hearing. Is there anyone who'd like to be heard? Hearing none, may I have a motion?
I move that the public hearing be closed and the local law adopted.
Second.
Madam Clerk?
Supervisor Gillen.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman. Councilman Diaz-Bazito. Councilman Dunn. Senior Councilwoman Gooseby. Councilwoman King Sweeney. Councilman Muscarella.
Aye.
Madam Clerk, please call our next public hearing.
Proposed local law regarding gross weight restrictions in Franklin Square.
I do not have any slips on this public hearing. Is there anyone who'd like to be heard? Hearing none, may I have a motion?
I move that the public hearing be closed and that the local law be adopted.
Second.
Madam Clerk?
Supervisor Gillen.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman.
Aye.
Councilman Diaz-Bazito. Councilman Dunn. Senior Councilwoman Gooseby. Councilwoman King Sweeney. Councilman Muscarella.
Aye.
Madam Clerk, will you call the next public hearing?
Proposed local law entitled Code of Ethics in order to strengthen provisions related to nepotism. I also have a companion resolution, proposed local law entitled Code of Ethics in order to expand the definition of relative to include family members of a town employee's spouse.
I have a slip from Felix Percacci.
Felix Procacci. I oppose modifying this ethics law in any way until we select, as far as I know we haven't, correct me if I'm wrong, the proper members of the Board of Ethics, because currently we don't have it. I had called the supervisor's office and the town's helpline over the last weeks several times, and I've gotten no response. I did get a response from the helpline, and they told me, referred to me to go to the town attorney's office. And I'd like to point out that the town code for ethics says to go to the secretary of the Board of Ethics. And I asked who that was, and I got no response. And so I oppose any changes, and also to this law until we select the Board of Ethics. And also what's needed also, because once again, as written, this is inept law, and what needs to be added are similar things that we added to the compliance officer law, where we have to prohibit political activities. We have to also indicate that a conflict exists if the town board interfaces with the Board of Zoning Appeals, because that should also be defined as a conflict of interest, not just a conflict between, vendors who do work with the town. And also what needs to be added immediately, willful violations of town code, town rules, state law, federal law. Because right now, it's a matter of just going to court, file a lawsuit, and as we know, residents don't have the funds that the town has to just take every case to an Article 78. I mean, I have the time somewhat to do it, but the average resident doesn't, and I can't do everything. And People need to have an outlet when they see that the town board or town employees are violating town rules. They have to be able to report this to the Board of Ethics, and we don't have a outlet. I don't even know the person I would contact. I don't know who the secretary to the Board of Ethics is. And if that person has a conflict, I don't know who to contact otherwise. All those needs to be defined before you start changing the law. Also, Board of Ethics people cannot be committee people. Like John Ryan is campaigning with Muscarella and Don Clavin, videos he's making. He appears in the newspaper. He's the head of the Board of Ethics, and he's campaigning. That's a conflict of interest. It has to define. I know that it's been discussed, and they say there's nothing. There is a conflict of interest. In any other world, there would be, except here we ignore those obvious conflicts of interest. Thank you.
Mr. Bracace, I'd just like to point out that my appointment to the Board of Ethics is actually on the calendar today.
I'm aware of that, but the thing is there's supposed to be 5 members, including the town attorney, and they're supposed to be selected by a particular formula specified in the law, and that hasn't been done. I've looked through the calendar. If I'm wrong, correct me, but I don't think it's been done per the law. We're violating the ethics law right now.
Thank you, Mr. Bracace. I do not have any other slips on this public hearing. Is there anybody else who would like to be heard?
Diane Madden, Hempstead. For full disclosure, I am running for Town of Hempstead Supervisor. I would like to know between 11 and 12, could someone please tell me the committee members so far of the Board of Ethics? Did I understand that correctly, that Mr. Ra is part of this committee? Is that correct?
Pursuant to the code.
My memory says it is John Ryan. Today, Grace Moran will be added. And do you know who's the third person? No. Who? Do you know? Because it's in the state of flux because new members are being appointed. Under the new code.
Could you please tell me how that process?
It's just that it's in the state of flux because new members are being appointed.
Thank you. So, Mr. Ra, you were involved with this committee? You are involved with this committee in some way, this ethics committee? So I'm very troubled by that because based on the animal shelter laws, those have been disobeyed within the town attorney's office, clearly violated, specifically the spay-neuter laws recently when a pit bull, 9-month-old pit bull, was released back to its owner, not spayed, to produce more pit bulls who already overpopulate our animal shelter and suffer the most under both administrations. Any comment, Mr. Ra?
What number on the calendar is this?
Number 11 and 12. Yes. Well, it's an example that it questions who's involved with this committee when your office has violated our own town laws.
I don't know that there's I have not seen an ethics complaint about an issue with a pit bull, so I'm not following.
Okay, so who can I?
Well, I don't know if there's has there been an ethics? Do you know? Have you made?
Well, I would think it. I've made many complaints. I've made many ethics complaints. So who would I make that complaint to that the town is breaking its own laws? Who can I make that complaint to, please?
The Board of Ethics. You can send a complaint to the Board of Ethics, Ms. Madden.
In general?
Yes.
Okay, and one more question, and correct me if I'm wrong, Councilman Blakeman, you had mentioned maybe a few years ago that there should be amendment made regarding employees that are in either marriages or relationships that had previously caused a problem. I'm not suggesting that's in every case. Was that ever followed up with?
I had some discussions with some constitutional experts who said to me that that might be problematic. It might violate right of privacy laws. So there was no follow-up after that.
So what would be the worst case scenario with that if you had enough reason and if there were situations where, you know, it was unethical or the behavior was unethical? Wouldn't that speak to specific, I mean, to brush it all off and say that we're
Unethical in what way?
unethical in certain relationships throughout the town of Hempstead within departments who...
A romantic relationship between
Correct.
people? Yeah, I was told by constitutional experts that it's problematic to legislate that, the affairs of two people, unless there is a complaint that it created a hostile work environment or that a superior to someone, basically their boss, was influencing that person's work or that person's time or that person's salary in an unethical way, then that would be something that would fall outside of the area of the right to privacy. But basically, people can date whoever they want. They can have whatever kind of relationship they want with whoever they want, so as long as they don't violate the law.
And if they do violate the law, where is that complaint?
If they violate the law, well, there's a couple of things. If they violate a town law, the complaint should go to the appropriate authority. Certainly, if it involves sexual harassment, we have a protocol for that and a sexual harassment officer. There are a number of them that are listed in our procedures in our town employment book that, you know, let's say it was somebody that they were supposed to go to that was a sexual harassment officer that was in fact involved in it, then they could go to somebody else. There's a protocol for them to go through. And we can get you the protocol for that if you'd like. We'll get you the written procedures on if it were sexual harassment. If it's for other things, there would be procedures like that, creating a hostile work environment, stuff like that.
I would like those procedures. Is your office going to be?
Sure. Is Regina around? Rich, would you provide that to Diane, please?
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I do not have any other slips on these public hearings. Is there anyone else who'd like to be heard?
Thank you, Madam Supervisor and members of the board. My name is Steve Leventhal. I'm Ethics Counsel to the town, and I would just like to say a few words about the two matters that are currently before the board. First, when the current bipartisan code of ethics was adopted by this board, there was general agreement about three things. First is that it was a vast improvement over the previous code of ethics or any code of ethics that had existed in the entire history of this town. Secondly, that the code of ethics is and should be a work in progress, and that the board would be open-minded about considering changes and improvements as experience warranted. Third, there was a general recognition that nepotism undermines public confidence in government, and that it is an appropriate subject for regulation, and that those regulations should and ought to be effective regulations. So the current proposal before the board makes the nepotism provisions of the current code of ethics, which already are meaningful and effective, more robust. In addition to regulating the use of one's public office to benefit a relative, the code, if these proposals are adopted, will now regulate the use of public office to benefit the relative of a spouse or the spouse of a child or sibling. A superior officer or employee may not participate in the supervision of a subordinate relative, or now it will also say seek to influence personal personnel decisions regarding a related party. The proposal before the board elaborates what we intend a related party not to participate in, and that would include supervision, assignments, scheduling, evaluations, and compensation. In addition, the current proposal would provide that a subordinate related party may not be assigned to the same office as a superior related party if that superior related party is an elected official, a department head or deputy, a division head or deputy, except in 3 instances. First, if it's required by the civil service law. Second, if it's required by the collective bargaining agreement. And third, if the Board of Ethics, considering the facts of the particular case, makes a finding that the superior related party can effectively recuse himself or herself from any of those personnel decisions, and that doing so will not have the effect of undermining public confidence in government. So the Board of Ethics will be required to make those findings regarding the specific case presented. Finally, the Board of Ethics members themselves may not be a relative of a town officer or employee, or the relative of a spouse, or the spouse of a child or sibling. So those are the changes. I think they all are improvements to the current code. I recommend their adoption, and if I may just state one more thing. I have a long history working with Grace Moran in the field of ethics. She is an absolutely excellent candidate for the Board of Ethics. She was the first female president of the Nassau County Bar Association. She was the attorney for the grievance committee of the 10th Judicial District. She is an active practitioner in the area of ethics, has excellent judgment, extensive experience, and I commend you for that appointment.
Thank you, Mr. Leventhal, and thank you for your cooperation and your help in making these amendments to the Code of Ethics, and thank you for your support for Ms. Moran.
I just wish to echo the supervisor's comments. Thank you, Steve, for all your help. I think you've done such a good job negotiating among all of us that we're going to offer you up to North Korea and the United States for those negotiations. So thank you.
Just watch your step.
All right, I do not have any other slips in these public hearings. Is there anybody else who'd like to be heard? Hearing none, may I have a motion? Second. Madam Clerk?
Supervisor Gillen?
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman? Aye. Councilman Diaz-Bazito? Aye. Councilman Dunn? Aye. Senior Councilwoman Gooseby? Aye. Councilwoman King-Sweeney? Aye. Councilman Muscarella?
Aye.
Madam Clerk, will you please call our next public hearing?
Proposed local law entitled Department of Occupational Resources in order to ensure oversight of the department by requiring town board approval for expenditures and submission of an annual balanced budget.
I do not have any slips on this public hearing. Is there anyone who'd like to be heard?
Felix Procacci. As I said at the last meeting, this is unnecessary law because I did go back, as I said I would. I went through state law, New York State town law, and the town controller, or finance person, whatever, if we have one, supposed to include all receipts, reports of all receipts of money and all expenditures. So this hasn't been done. I believe I got the law here. I think it was first passed in 1979. Yeah, May 22nd, 79. It's effective May 24th, 79. This law should be thrown out. This is like having, why don't we have a separate law for every department, sanitation department? This is Chapter 64, Department of Occupational Resources. Why don't we have a separate law for sanitation, personnel, everything? We don't need this law. The federal government gives us money, and we have to account for that money. We pass a resolution to receive the money, just like we have several on the calendar today. We're accepting some items 43, 95, 97, 104 on the administrative calendar. We're accepting money or spending money that was given to us. Same thing. Why did we put Department of Occupational Resources in a different category? When you put things in a different category that don't belong in a different category, you just complicate the issues. So I suggest that we get rid of this amendment and this resolution and change this to dropping the whole damn thing and making it like everything else, like it should be.
Well, that's what we're trying to accomplish. If you'd stop the time, please. Mr. Procacci, I can't speak to why that went forward in 1979. Not only was I not here, I probably couldn't even understand what that resolution was back then. Maybe, I don't know, Mr. Ra, if you could elaborate on that, with all due respect to your... But Felix, what we are trying to do with this resolution is to bring DOOR back under the same purview and have the same standards that we have for other departments with DOOR now.
I get that, and you know, well, I went back to all the budgets I've looked at, going back to part of my FOIL request. DOOR, except for 2019, has never been part of the budget. Sometimes they put some commentary in the beginning of it, but this 2019 was the first time we actually detailed it out, which is really good. But like I said, I don't like making categories when that category shouldn't exist. You just complicate things. You guys in the legal department, they find every crack. It becomes a maze. Someone who's a lawyer or even very persistent trying to figure this out, it becomes a spaghetti of code, because now you have to really vote, you know, press that this law is not applicable because state law preempts it. So you have too many things going on at one time. It makes the litigation very expensive, and I know that for a fact, and very complicated because I've been involved in it and I'm currently involved in it. So scrap the whole thing like you should, and don't treat it any differently. State law applies. State law applies. There's no need to do this. Don't make it more complicated than it needs to be.
Thank you, Mr. Procacci. I do not have any other slips in this public hearing. Is there anyone else who'd like to be heard?
No slips, right?
This is item 13, correct?
Yes.
Sorry, Meta Maraday, Baldwin resident. Just to reiterate and just to get some consensus on what are the steps, again, moving forward. Just the level of, again, disappointment with regard to how this has come about when, again, residents are getting assurances that there are vetting processes and oversight and overview and the protection of our resources. And just to read about this once again, you know, our life plays out for us for all the taxes that we pay in Newsday. And the accountability of our elected officials continues to be diminished by this ongoing lack of transparency and the types of things that are happening in this type of situation. So just trying to get some idea as far as what are the steps in place moving forward as it pertains to reviews of contracts, the movement of employees, whether they're retiring or not retiring.
We're talking about the DOOR resolution.
I am talking about that as well, but I'm saying this resolution, the fact that you have to have this type of resolution, what the genesis of this resolution is deep-seated in the scenario that, you know, created this wave that brought people into elected positions. And residents need to have some clarity as to how their interests are going to be protected.
So this is to increase oversight of the Department of Occupational Resources, to require that now all their contracts have to come before the town board, just like every other department in the town, and that they have to submit budgets to us. So it's increasing oversight, and it will increase transparency, therefore, in that department as well.
But what other agencies, entities within the town are basically operating on their own that we have to find out about these types of situations in Newsday, and then it becomes another resolution? That's kind of where the concern is. That's where the question is. I mean, again, the vetting process in this regard, complete lack. So basically, who is going to be held accountable? If this was a private sector entity, if this was a business, if it was a major company, there would be more than what's taken place here. But actually, there would have been steps ahead of this.
Well, I think people have been held accountable. Ms. Hurtado is no longer working for the Department of Occupational Resources, and the commissioner has left his position.
Okay, so then who's fulfilling that role? Who decides how that decision is going to be made? I mean, again, there were other people that were involved besides the commissioner and Ms. Hurtado, who I don't know from a can of paint. You know, I'm talking about the elected officials who were put in position to protect my interests. So I just want to know, is there going to be another Newsday expose or something else on News 12 about another department, another entity that, quote unquote, was able to slide under the radar? That's what I'm saying.
Well, I think putting forward this resolution is trying to protect your interest and the taxpayers' interest to make sure there's greater oversight of this department. So I think this resolution is an example of elected officials doing something to protect taxpayers.
And is the reporting process going to be made available to the public so that we can monitor this as well?
Financial audits of departments, finances, budgets, they're all published online now that I'm the supervisor.
Okay, great.
Thank you. I do not have any other slips on this public hearing. Is there anybody else who'd like to be heard? Hearing none, may I have a motion?
Second.
Madam Clerk?
Supervisor Gillen?
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman? Councilman Diaz-Bazito? Councilman Dunn? Senior Councilwoman Gooseby? Councilwoman King Sweeney? Councilman Muscarella?
Aye.
Madam Clerk, will you please call the next public hearing?
Proposed local law to be entitled Whistleblower Protection Act in order to establish procedures to protect employees who disclose illegal or improper governmental activities from retaliation in the form of adverse personnel actions.
I do not have any slips on this public hearing. Is there anyone who'd like to be heard?
Felix Procacci. Like I said at the last meeting, this law isn't worth the paper it's printed on, and it still isn't. To report whistleblowing to the town attorney, who is the executive director of the Franklin Square Republican Club, is absolutely ridiculous. It's an absolute conflict of interest. And also to report wrongdoing to the supervisor. It depends on who the supervisor is. If she doesn't have or he doesn't have the board to take action, it's a useless exercise. If I reported things to Supervisor Santino and Supervisor Murray, and they ended there. That's where it ended. It never went any further. So this law has no teeth, and it essentially should be scrapped. And we should select a committee who is totally isolated from this board. This board should have no bearing, should have no part in selecting the people who sit on a committee in which employees are going to spill their guts about some wrongdoing in this town. I've never seen it happen. We had a person years ago who reported it was an individual resident who reported that their car was blocked in by another town employee. They respected the town employee's privacy because it was under investigation. It was one of those things under investigation, and we never learned what happened. Mark Bonilla was a different case. There we put him on the front page. So people are treated differently. The idea that we don't talk about personal decisions is absurd. Roy Gunther, his rights were violated. I'm sure there's more than just him who had got violations by the building department, but he was put on the front page of Newsday.com. But other employees who have committed similar offenses have not, and their names remain anonymous, and they respect their privacy. So the double standard exists, so this is a piece of garbage, to say the least. This is a real piece of garbage, this law. It's not worth it. Like I said, I warn every town employee, don't ever trust the town attorney, and don't ever trust, in general, any town supervisor to do the right thing. It may work out for you, but it may not. And I can tell you right now, for 100% sure, you report something to the town attorney, you ain't going to get anywhere. Thank you.
So Felix, you're not in favor, right?
Oh, no, I really love it.
Any more papers? We have to have some sheets here. We got to have some control. We'll be in here.
Yeah. If you want to speak on an item, you have to fill out a slip. If you want to speak on a public hearing, you have to fill out a slip for every public hearing. We have to move through this calendar. We have almost 150 items on the calendar. So if you want to be heard on any item, please fill out a slip.
Thank you. So I just have a general question.
Can you please identify yourself for the record?
Diane Madden, Hempstead. Full disclosure, I'm running for Hempstead Town Supervisor to turn this whole place upside down. Could someone please tell me whose benefit is this for? Because I can tell you in 18 years, I hear from a lot of employees. And the majority of these employees that everyone takes pictures of and everyone says our CSEA and blah, 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 they are fully aware that if they complain to any of you, that they risk having a target on their back and that their information will not be confidential. So I'd like to ask and kind of circle back to what Felix said and ask if this board would consider putting together a committee that would safeguard these people and truly make them feel as if they're protected, as if they're being heard, and give them some assurance that whatever their grievances may be addressed. Because right now, and I would love the new union president's position on this, I don't know if she agrees or disagrees, I'd love to know. But in my opinion and from my experience over many years, the employees this means nothing to them. This is all more dog and pony show. So would the board reconsider who would be on such a committee and who would be involved in such a committee?
I don't think this statute is a dog and pony show, and I think it offers real protection to our employees, which is why I put it forward.
Well, I don't. And I think that if you speak to not necessarily the high-ranking employees, but if you speak to the lower-ranking employees, I think that they would disagree. Thank you.
I do not have any other slips on this public hearing. Is there anyone else who'd like to be heard? Hearing none, I move that we close the hearing that this item be adopted. May I have a second? Second. Madam Clerk?
Supervisor Gillen?
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman? Councilman Diaz-Bazito? Councilman Dunn? Senior Councilwoman Gooseby?
Aye, and this does apply to everyone that's receiving pay from the town board, from this whole town, right? Anybody and everybody. Am I right, Supervisor?
It applies to all our employees.
All our employees plus us. Okay. And I vote yes.
Councilwoman King Sweeney? Councilman Muscarella?
Aye.
Madam Clerk, please call our next public hearing.
Proposed handicap parking on public streets in East Meadow, Elmont, Franklin Square, Inwood, Oceanside, and Wantagh.
I do not have any slips on this public hearing. Is there anyone who'd like to be heard? Hearing none, may I have a motion?
I'd like to second that.
Madam Clerk?
Supervisor Gillen?
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman? Aye. Councilman Diaz-Bazito? Aye. Councilman Dunn? Aye. Senior Councilwoman Gooseby? Aye. Councilwoman King Sweeney? Councilman Muscarella?
Aye.
Madam Clerk, please call our next public hearing.
Proposed renewal of a contract for furnishing fire protection services with the Silver Point Fire Protection District in Inwood Fire District.
I do not have any slips on this public hearing. Is there anyone who'd like to be heard? Hearing none, may I have a motion?
Yes, first of all, I would like to thank our staff here at the town of Hempstead, and certainly the commissioners and members of the Inwood Fire District for working on this agreement. It is going to protect people in our community, and I want to again congratulate our outstanding volunteer firefighters and the Board of Commissioners for the outstanding work that they do in public safety and fire protection. So I gladly will move this item and put this measure forward.
Second.
Madam Clerk?
Supervisor Gillen.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman. Councilman Diaz-Bazito. Councilman Dunn. Senior Councilwoman Gooseby. Councilwoman King Sweeney. Councilman Muscarella.
Aye.
Madam Clerk, please call our next public hearing.
Proposed increase and improvement of the Franklin Square Park District.
I have Tom Feeney, sorry.
Hi, I'm Thomas Feeney from Franklin Square. This is about Rath Park. Hello, Supervisor Gillen and council members. I have enjoyed Rath Park since my kids grew up. I live across the street. You know, the kids use the playground, the baseball fields, the pool, and the tennis courts. And I've been using the tennis courts. This is about the tennis courts, what I'm talking about. I've been using the tennis courts for 25 years in Rath Park. And they've deteriorated over time, and they really need to be resurfaced. Now, we complained, there was a meeting a couple of months ago, and what the town did is they did a patch job on it. There was a lot of cracks in the park, and then they painted over it. But there's so many complaints from everybody that play. There's a lot of seniors. We play there. We like to, you know, recreate, and other people come during the day. But we like to, you know, I see North Hempstead has a beautiful park. They resurfaced it, and I've been complaining for years. The Polar promised me it in 2017. He said, well, we don't have the asphalt, blah, blah, blah. And I've been complaining to Phyllis, and they all said they have no money. And I'm here to ask for the money. It's only, what, 50, 60K to make a nice park so that we can use the park, the seniors and other people, the young people can learn to play tennis, and it keeps us moving around. And I guess I'm done.
Well, sir, thank you for bringing this to our attention. We were aware that there were some issues with the tennis courts. I was told that they were repaired. If you would like them resurfaced, would certainly consider putting that in the capital plan. Obviously, you're aware that it's a park district, so basically that would be included in the park district's capital plan. Yeah, so look, I think we can do it. As a matter of fact, Councilman Muscarella was telling me recently that he plays there, yes, and he thinks we should resurface. So, yeah, so. Yeah, we'll definitely try. We'll try and get it in the capital plan. For the meantime, we'll stay up on the repairs, but we'll get it into the capital plan, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So, sir, we are allocating $300,000 towards this park district. Right now, it's just generically allocated, so it's not designated for any specific purpose. We did have a meeting regarding trying to get some community feedback about what improvements were most important to them. So certainly, I appreciate you coming here, and that's something that we will bring back when we are again come together with the community as one of the priority items. Thank you. Thank you.
Wait, sir, before you go, how's Muscarella's game? And be honest.
He's getting better.
There you go.
I do not, Felix, you have to fill out a slip.
Put all of them on one slip. I believe I listed all the public hearings on one slip. Okay. Anyway, I'm against appropriating 1 penny more for the Franklin Square Park District until the community has a full accounting of the $4.2 million budget, which was about $1.9 million, if I remember right, in 2004. And in 10 years, from 2004 to 2014 approximately, it went up 100%. We don't have much. I foiled the documents. I foiled the administrative charges. You know what comes back? No records exist. At one point, I did get a list of employees when it was about $4 million, $800,000 in employees roughly. Where's the rest of the money going? $3.2 million. Usually employees is the bulk of any department's expenses. The idea that we have a slush fund, which I call it, is absolutely absurd. The idea that we're adding more money here, we just increased it 5%, $200,000 over a year, no accounting for how that money is being spent. I've been working on this since 2014, foiling documents, and I get nothing. Now you want more money. I don't know where it's being spent. Nobody knows where it's being spent. Your own controller doesn't know where it's being spent. So why, until we have an accounting, how can you keep on spending more money on our park district? I don't understand that.
Mr. Capobianco, are you here? Can you work with Mr. Procacci to get him the information that he needs? Thank you.
No records exist. It came from his office. It came from Kevin Conroy's office. No records exist. You know how many times I foiled this? You know how many times I foiled this? Many times, at least 4 times since 2014.
Felix, he said he'd get you the information. Give him a chance till the next meeting. I just wanted to address something. Everything we do at Rath Park is based on what the vast majority of the residents in the Park District want for the park. So basically, when they came to us many times with a lot of support, that they wanted a Williamsport specified baseball field so that they could compete on a higher level and compete for tournaments that would bring people from around the metropolitan area into Franklin Square, which would not only showcase our beautiful parks, but also improve our economy by bringing people in from outside to spend money here. That was one of the things that we considered and we decided to do, which was, somewhat of a costly, expenditure, but it was what the people wanted. You came here, you talked about our pools, that you wanted us to be responsive with the pools. You talked to us about, I believe, track and field you coach. You asked us to make improvements. We did that. The parking lot we made improvements with, the sprinkler system. So basically, we respond in park districts pretty much to what the residents want. And it's our obligation to also tell them how much it's going to cost. So basically, it's driven by what the members of the district want.
And I'd just like to point out that items, public hearings 17 through 21, all relate to bonding for expenditures that were already approved as part of the capital plan. But state law requires not a permissive referendum on the bonding. It requires a public hearing on the bonding. So really what we're talking about is the bonding for these projects.
Okay. First, everything Mr. Blakeman said has nothing to do with what I'm talking about. And
well, you said you wanted financial disclosure, and Mr. Capobianco agreed to give that to you.
I get that. Going back to April 2014, I've been asking for financial disclosure, and for 5 years I haven't gotten. Now a miracle is going to occur, and I'm going to get it. Then you're going to make something up that doesn't exist, because I even asked your finance director, Averill Smith, for it, and she had nothing except very vague documents.
Ms. Smith, are you here, Ms. Smith? Did you work with Mr. Procacci on providing him with information, Ms. Smith? Can you please come forward? You provided I'm just going to repeat what you said. You provided the information to Mr. Procacci. You provided the information that was available. Did you withhold any information from Mr. Procacci? Can you please speak at the microphone, Ms. Smith?
Not really, partially, but the thing is, once again, a bulk of that money and Averill Smith did the best she can. I'm not criticizing her one bit. She says it's not available. It's not her fault, because this happened last year. She just got here. She can't make up what the past was. How could she do that? Nobody can do that.
So, Ms. Smith, were records missing? Is that the problem? There were no records?
Supervisor, I am not sure, but any information I provided to Mr. Procacci came from the Comptroller's office. They're the record keepers of the town. So I worked with Mr. Capabianca to give you what was available and explained that as far as the admin charge, they've walked you through that before, giving you the logic of that, and I don't want to get into the weeds about it. Once again, I'll invite you to come in and we can walk you through that.
Sure.
And Ms. Smith, he was pleased.
He was certainly pleased based on the response to me.
So if you now are unpleased, give us a list of what you think's missing, and we'll try to find it for you.
$3.2 million worth of expenditures. But anyway, on the Averill Park issue, which is not the Rath Park issue, where it was flooding, my daughter
We're
went
on
through-
Rath Park now.
No. But you mentioned the flooding. The flooding. I just want to clarify something, please. The thing I brought up on the flooding had to do with the Averill Park, which is still underwater. My daughter said she had to go through more than a foot of water last week on her bicycle. It hasn't been fixed yet.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bercacci. All right. I do not have any other slips on this public hearing. Is there anyone else who'd like to be heard? Hearing none, may I have a motion?
I move that the public hearing be closed, and I'm glad that we are joining together and making improvements in the Rath Park Fire District, primarily the
Park District.
Excuse me?
Park, P-A-R-K, Park.
What did I say?
You said
Fire
fire.
District. See, I'm on the last thing. The Park District, thank you. And basically, the most important component, obviously, is the safety of our residents that use our parks.
I would like to second that.
Madam Clerk?
Supervisor Gilliland.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman. Aye. Councilman Diaz-Bazito. Aye. Councilman Dunn. Senior Councilwoman Gooseby.
Aye.
Councilwoman King Sweeney. Councilman Muscarella.
Aye.
Madam Clerk, please call our next public hearing.
Proposed increase and improvement of the Town of Hempstead Park District.
I do not have any slips on this public hearing. Is there anyone who'd like to be heard? Hearing none, may I have a motion? Madam Clerk?
Supervisor Gilliland.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman. Aye. Councilman Diaz-Bazito. Aye. Councilman Dunn. Aye. Senior Councilwoman Gooseby.
Aye.
Councilwoman King Sweeney. Councilman Muscarella.
Aye.
Madam Clerk, will you please call our next public hearing?
Proposed increase and improvement of the Town of Hempstead Street Lighting District.
I do not have any slips on this public hearing. Is there anyone who'd like to be heard? Hearing none, may I have a motion?
I move that the proposed item be adopted.
Second.
Madam Clerk?
Supervisor Gillen.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman. Aye. Councilman Diaz-Bazito. Aye. Councilman Dunn. Aye. Senior Councilwoman Gooseby. Aye. Councilwoman King Sweeney. Aye. Councilman Muscarella.
Aye.
Madam Clerk, please call our next public hearing.
Proposed increase and improvement of the Woodmere-Hewlett Parking District.
I do not have any slips on this public hearing. Is there anyone who'd like to be heard? Hearing none, may I have a motion?
I move that the public hearing be closed and the increased improvement of the Woodmere-Hewlett Parking District be approved.
Second.
Madam Clerk?
Supervisor Gillen.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman.
Aye.
Councilman Diaz-Bazito. Aye. Councilman Dunn. Aye. Senior Councilwoman Gooseby. Councilwoman King Sweeney. Councilman Muscarella.
Aye.
Madam Clerk, please call the next public hearing.
Proposed increase and improvement of the Town of Hempstead Refuse Disposal District.
I do not have any slips on this public hearing. Is there anyone who'd like to be heard?
Is this the DOH? Number 22. Yeah, this is 22. We on 22?
No, not now. It's next.
Mary Ellen Cray, 436 Locust Avenue, Uniondale. I kind of lost track, so I do have questions on all three, 18, 19, and 21. What the increases and what is being done in these three situations, please.
So there, let's see, 18 is different improvement, facility upgrades. Is the Parks Commissioner here?
Because it just says Park District without specification.
Some of these upgrades are for projects that we're still figuring out what we're going to prioritize. Commissioner Lino, do you have any more specific information about 18?
We're going to be doing work in various parks. That's part of the work that Mr. Picacci was just speaking about, the drainage system in Averill Park. The bathrooms in Coles Neck, the masonry work in Echo Park, Elmont Road bathrooms, and the Shell Creek spray pad.
Thank you, Commissioner. And Commissioner, I'd also like to take a moment to just thank you for you and your staff for the incredible job that you did this weekend with our Salute to Veterans. We had bad weather, you improvised, and you did a great job. So I thank you, and I thank all your staff.
God bless to all our veterans.
The outside. Oh, where it's taped off. It's been taped off.
Right, because the children that use the stairwell to go to school, it needs to be fixed, and that's what we're going to be doing over there.
My question was about Echo Park, and
Okay?
thank you for the clarification. So the street lighting,
Who is someone here from that can speak about street lighting? Mr. Nolan, I think, is not here. Mr. Bonner, if you could just clarify on the street lighting.
My name is John Bonner, Town of Hempstead Street Lighting. Basically, what's happening with the street lighting district is the infrastructure repairs. We have an aging system out there. We're the largest public works utility street lighting division on Long Island, probably the state of New York with the exception of New York City. Most of our problems exist in the underground wiring systems, which are somewhat 40 years old plus. Basically, with the storm hardening process PSE&G is doing now with the utility poles, putting in new poles, we have to install new riser systems, which is the electrical feed to our underground lights. We have approximately 17,000 underground lights out there, and this is where the bulk of the expenditures go, upgrading and bringing it up to all the new current codes.
Thank you.
who would expect that those taller poles would require such, a large expenditure and difficulty for the town?
But what's happening with those is the poles itself is not the expense to the town. We have an electrical wiring system.
No, I mean that.
Has to be installed.
As a result of these new taller poles.
Right.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And then the refuse disposal district?
Mr. Conroy, are you here, Commissioner Conroy?
The bulk of the money for the refuse disposal is for various paving projects around the Merrick Transfer Station.
Thank you.
Merrick Transfer Station,
Oh. Transfer.
where we bring the garbage.
Where you bring the garbage, okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Okay, I do not have any other slips on this public hearing. Is there anyone else who'd like to be heard? Hearing none, may I have a motion? Madam Clerk?
Supervisor Gillen?
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman? Councilman Diaz-Bazito? Councilman Dunn? Senior Councilwoman Gooseby? Councilwoman King Sweeney? Councilman Muscarella?
Aye.
Madam Clerk, please call our next public hearing.
Application of AAA Nadiri Holdings LLC for a special exception public garage to make some minor interior and exterior alterations to the existing one-story stucco building and attached metal storage shed, staying within the existing building's footprint located at 659 Woodfield Road in West Hempstead.
Supervisor, I have a letter from the attorney for AAA Nadiri Holdings LLC. Unexpectedly, their client was called out of town and is traveling abroad, and so they asked that the matter be adjourned without date.
Okay, can I have a motion for an adjournment?
I move to adjourn this.
Second.
Madam Clerk?
Supervisor Gillen.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman. Councilman Diaz-Esposito. Councilman Dunn. Senior Councilwoman Gooseby. Councilwoman King Sweeney. Councilman Muscarella.
Aye.
Okay, that concludes our public hearings. Madam Clerk, will you please call the decision calendar?
There are two items on the decision calendar. The first is the application of 3222 Hempstead Turnpike LLC for a special exception public garage to remove the existing one-story, 3,400-foot retail building and replace it with a one-story, 5,352-foot building to serve as an automotive service and repair facility, approximately 658.95 feet west of Gardner's Avenue in Levittown.
May I have a motion on this item?
Second.
Madam Clerk?
Supervisor Gillen.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman. Councilman Diaz-Esposito. Councilman Dunn. Senior Councilwoman Gooseby.
Aye.
Councilwoman King Sweeney. Councilman Muscarella.
Aye.
Madam Clerk, will you call the next item, please? Oh, no.
The next item is the application of Wantaw 3215 LLC for a permit to include existing gasoline service station with GSS district to demolish existing building, a new one-story, 2,966-foot convenience store and gasoline service station facility will be constructed, adding 6 MPDs providing 12 fueling stations will be constructed, as will a 20-foot by 136-foot canopy covering the MPDs in Wantaw.
May I have a motion on this item?
Supervisor, I move that the application be approved.
Second.
Madam Clerk?
Supervisor Gillen.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman. Aye. Councilman Diaz-Esposito. Aye. Councilman Dunn. Aye. Senior Councilwoman Gooseby. Aye. Councilwoman King Sweeney. Aye. Councilman Muscarella.
Aye.
Oh my God.
Madam Clerk, will you please call the administrative calendar?
Okay, get ready for this one. Okay. On the administrative calendar, I have items 25 through 139. I also have 11 resolutions that are of an urgent or emergency nature. The first is a resolution authorizing the supervisor to renew the town's fire, multi-peril, and flood insurance policies and public safety insurance and to pay the associated premiums. This will be item 140 on the administrative calendar. The second resolution is a resolution authorizing the Commissioner of the Town of Hempstead Department of Occupational Resources to execute a contract for information, technology, database management, and developmental local area network administration and web developmental consulting services between the Town of Hempstead Department of Occupational Resources and Diversified Microsystems, Inc. This will be item number 141 on the administrative calendar. The third resolution is a resolution authorizing the Commissioner of the Town of Hempstead Department of Occupational Resources to execute the Information Technology One-Stop Operating System Coordination and Staff Training Contract between the Town of Hempstead Department of Occupational Resources and DM Cords Consulting, Inc. This will be item number 142 on the administrative calendar. The fourth resolution is a resolution authorizing the Commissioner of the Town of Hempstead Department of Occupational Resources to execute the one-stop staff services contract between the Town of Hempstead Department of Occupational Resources and Long Beach Adult Learning Center. This will be item number 143 on the administrative calendar. The fifth resolution is a resolution authorizing the Commissioner of the Town of Hempstead Department of Occupational Resources to execute the Disability Employment Initiative Consulting Services contract between the Town of Hempstead Department of Occupational Resources and Career and Employment Options, Inc. This will be item number 144 on the administrative calendar. The sixth resolution is a resolution authorizing the Commissioner of the Town of Hempstead Department of Occupational Resources to execute the one-stop staff services contract between the Town of Hempstead Department of Occupational Resources and Goodwill Industries of Greater New York and Northern New Jersey, Inc. This will be item number 145 on the administrative calendar. The seventh resolution is a resolution authorizing the Commissioner of the Town of Hempstead Department of Occupational Resources to execute the one-stop operator services contract between the Town of Hempstead Department of Occupational Resources and Goodwill Industries of Greater New York and Northern New Jersey, Inc. This will be item number 146 on the administrative calendar. The eighth resolution is a resolution authorizing the Commissioner of the Town of Hempstead Department of Occupational Resources to execute the out-of-school youth services contract between the Town of Hempstead Department of Occupational Resources and EAC Network. This will be item number 147 on the administrative calendar. The ninth resolution is a resolution extending the temporary suspension of enforcement of Section 144-3. Point G of the Code of the Town of Hempstead in relation to regulation of permissible hours for the conduct of structural work on buildings. This will be item number 148 on the administrative calendar. The 10th resolution is a resolution extending temporary period for waiver of all building department and Board of Appeal fees in connection with applications to repair or replace dwellings damaged or destroyed by the effects of Hurricane Sandy and expanding upon relief afforded to Hurricane Sandy victims. This will be item number 149 on the administrative calendar. The 11th resolution is a resolution extending temporary waiver of town clerk fees for passport and copies of birth certificates, death certificates, marriage licenses, and persons whose residence were damaged by the effects of Hurricane Sandy. This will be item 150 on the administrative calendar.
Madam Clerk, I'm going to give you a break. I have a resolution that's of an urgent emergency nature to be added to the calendar. This item is a resolution appointing Dr. Eric Millette as Commissioner of the Department of Occupational Resources. This item would be 151 on the calendar.
Would any of the council members like to sever any of the items on the administrative calendar?
I think there needs to be a second on that.
We haven't made a motion yet.
Didn't she make a motion? Yeah. Yeah, she made a motion.
Oh, you moved in?
I second the motion.
Okay.
No. I'm sorry.
have to make a motion, do you?
No, they're all on the calendar.
Okay.
Including emergency?
Those are all added to the calendar without objection, unless there's an objection from someone from the board.
Would anybody like to sever any of the items on the administrative calendar? All right, hearing no severing, may I have a motion on adopting items 24 through 151?
24 through 151. Okay. I move that we adopted items from 20 to 151. 24 to 151.
Second.
Thank you. Okay, we have a number of slips of people who'd like to be heard on the administrative calendar. The first is Lucille Defina.
Okay. Ms. Defina?
Lucille Defina, Merrick, New York. The question I had was for item 136. What is the reason for that resolution? Why does it differ from what was there before as far as duties for the animal shelter director?
Ms. Defina, you're talking about 136, the resolution calling for a public hearing?
Okay.
Yeah, that's just calling the public hearing. It's not the actual public hearing. If you have an issue with the date.
Okay.
You have 98?
Yeah, no, that's not the one.
Is it 59?
No, that is it. Resolution call. Oh, so, but it's, okay, resolution calling for public hearing for August 6th. But what is that hearing about? It's to amend Chapter 152. So what I'm trying to understand is why are you amending Chapter 152? How does it differ from the amendment before?
Someone's here from the public.
Based on the Nassau County Comptroller's recommendations in his financial review of the shelter, there was a mention of waiver of fees. This clarifies the language in the code with respect to who can waive a fee and how it's properly documented.
So this is only pertaining to waiving the fees?
Correct.
Okay, so how is it going to differ? Is the animal shelter director not able to waive the fee anymore?
Currently, the code isn't clear as to whether the shelter director has the authority. This will clarify that language for both the shelter director and the assistant director. It'll also put documentation in place so that the commissioner's office is notified when a fee is waived.
Okay.
And just again, so everyone understands, we're not voting on this today. This is simply on the calendar to call the public hearing for August 6th.
Okay. It's just with everything that came out of that audit, it's just this one little thing. I mean, you would think you would be getting a new shelter director instead of just changing that he can't waive the fees. It's doesn't surprise me.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Felix Picacci.
Felix Percacci on the administrative calendar number 108, as far as authorizing the award for litigation, the potential impacts of claims, regarding the groundwater. Before we start spending any additional money, because we're already entangled in a lawsuit with Grumman and other companies, and if you look at the calendar for that, the litigation consultations with the judge and everything, the court dates go out to 2020. And it's a lot of money. And before we start spending a lot of money on more litigation, make sure we have a case first before we start doing that.
Well, Felix, how would you do that without a lawyer?
Well, the thing is, you have a whole bunch of lawyers that we've spent $4 million plus in there. I'm not sure what they do. And you could look into whether there's law that before you start, spending a lot of money, because we engage in a lawsuit. We announced the lawsuit, even though we don't speak on pending litigation, right? But we announced that lawsuit back in 2016 in order for Santino to make a headline. We should have kept it quiet if we're going to do it, because we don't speak on pending litigation. Also, as far as appointing Grace Moran, I don't know her, but the thing is, once again, we don't have an ethics board. We don't have an ethics board.
With respect to your comment about the water litigation, they're taking it on a contingency basis, so there will be no, isn't that right, Mr. Ra? Taking on a contingency, so only if they win, they get a portion of our award. We're not expending any taxpayer dollars on that litigation. And we really need it because it's going to cost us about $40 million to make our wells safe.
I don't object to that. I didn't object to the litigation that Santino did back in 2016, only the way they did it. When I asked, did we have any meetings with Grumman, they said no. What did we do? It turned out all we did was send them a letter and ask for a bunch of money, and they said no or didn't respond, and then we entered into litigation. I don't think that's the right way to go about it. Going back to the ethics board, Grace Moran, she might be a great person. We don't have an ethics board. Your office didn't respond to me, and the town of Hempstead helpline responded saying that I have to send everything to the town attorney. Then I asked the question, suppose the ethics inquiry is about the town attorney, and they never responded. So as far as I can tell, from the best information received from the town, we don't have an ethics board. I think we have to read our law and get a board first, per the law, get rid of all the political cronies that are on that board. I don't know, aside from John Ryan, if there's any others, because I don't know those people. But John Ryan, campaigns for other candidates, and that should not be part of the ethics board. Once again, the leaves of absences are not on the thing. It just says 10 or something like that. Once again, there should be a space for number of leaves of absences, number of retirees. We ran on this. They said there's going to be 100 retirees. We're going to save $8 million. We promised the residents all this stuff. Now, the residents have the right now to verify what this town board said they were going to do with their tax cut budget. That are we really saving that money that we said, or we're just going to dip into reserves and not have a structurally balanced budget? So that's the reason why you need to put these things on the resolutions. And I'm running out of time, but the thing is, we need to do it and stop lip service.
Thank you, Mr. Picacci. Anne Marie DeSalvo. Liz Treston. Can you help her with the microphone, please?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes. Yeah, you guys want to help?
Great, thanks. Very good, thank you. My name is Elizabeth Trustin. I live in Long Beach. I know too well that as council members, you are concerned about the cost for Ernst & Young. Let's try to get the Oscars and Golden Globes out of our head for now and focus on the complete audit of your building department. This is not my first time here to request that the council members come to an agreement to protect your current and future residents from any more heartache and financial hardships because of the inept procedures of the building department. I understand the difficulty you may have in approving this. What I don't understand is how you cannot see there is a problem. Sometimes problems cannot be fixed within the house, and a fresh pair of eyes is what you need to look at, and it is required. You need fresh eyes. Stop playing politics with people's lives. We are coming up on 7 years since Superstorm Sandy. People are not home because they have been waiting in some instances for over a year for a permit, setting them back with due dates from New York Rising and finding reliable, honest contractors. I'm a firm believer in collaboration. The City of Long Beach Building Department did an outstanding job in determining what houses were substantially damaged and those that needed to be repaired, and the lucky ones whose houses were determined green with FEMA's assistance. I ask you, have you looked at all the houses that have been deemed red and yellow in your town of Hempstead? That would be a question.
I have.
Sir? I have also taken a ride to see the red houses if they were raised. In too many instances, they are not. As council members, it will be your responsibility to find funding for those homes that need to be raised because they missed out on the GOSTER funding, also known as New York Rising. It takes approximately $200,000 for a house to be lifted. Your residents on the South Shore do not have this pocket change. Doing nothing now will only exacerbate the wounds of the storm on an already fragile homeowner and taxpayer. This is a step in the many needed in planning for your town's future, including the focus of revitalization. For all the homeowners that have called me in desperation in the late evening hours, I implore you all to pass this resolution. And this new thing that I just got, which I'm sure you will address, is just politics. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Trustin. Ms. Trustin, when you said this new thing you just got, are you talking about this press release, Hempstead Council members to re-engineer building department? Is that what you're talking about? Yeah, I just got this right now. I've never seen this before, but we've had a long time to get our building department house in order, and I think what we really need, we've known about this issue, we've been working on this audit for a year and a half. Right.
No, she's Long Beach.
But you,
I don't call you. No, your people. Your residents call me. Residents call me in the town of Long Beach because of your building department. Thank you, Matt.
I would just like to say something about the building department. When I had some residents in Meadowmere Park that needed assistance in completing their applications and completing their processes for their permits, I asked the building department to go to Meadowmere Park and meet with the residents, which they did. And they came there and by and large, they solve the people's problems. So we brought town hall to the people in my district, and I'm proud of the result that we were able to get.
I don't think anybody in this town can be proud of what happened to the Sandy victims who are now faced with having to possibly elevate their homes because of a lack of communication from the town of Hempstead. We cannot let that happen again. For a year and a half, I've been working with the commissioner of the building department. The panel that selected Ernst & Young consisted of the building department commissioner, the deputy commissioner, a representative from my office, and a representative from the town board. Collaboratively, they've screened the applicants. Our compliance officer deemed both firms qualified, but the panel recommended Ernst & Young. If you have a problem with the cost, I'm fine. Let's amend the resolution on the floor and go with the lower bidder. I don't care, but we need a fresh set of eyes. Anyone who votes no on this audit is saying our building department is fine. And I don't think that your offices and your constituent affairs people will say that our building department is fine, that we don't get complaints and complaints about how long it takes to get a permit in the town of Hempstead. You can always be better. I would like our building department to be the gold standard for municipalities across this state. With an audit, we may be able to get there, but we need fresh eyes on this building department.
Okay, and Supervisor, I would respectfully disagree. I would rather spend the $300,000 to $600,000 that it's been estimated for an audit to hire new planning examiners, to open up our building department on Saturdays and Sundays to allow hardworking families who can't make it during the day and contractors who might be overwhelmed an opportunity to come on a Saturday or Sunday to Town Hall and be able to meet with our building department, to get their permits, to get their issues resolved. I think that if we spend much less than the $300,000 to $600,000 that's being proposed on an audit to hire these people, to approve the overtime, to put the people there, we're down to, I believe, somewhere between 11 and 12 planning examiners to process over 10,000 applications a year. So the way that we address that is we give the people more service, and we don't need an auditor to tell us to do that with $600,000 in an expenditure for that auditor. That's number one. Number two, Majority Leader, Councilwoman Erin King Sweeney, will also highlight how we plan to address the issues concerning some of the potential improvements that we can make to the building department. The building department is not perfect, but I think that basically we need to give them the resources. We have to listen to them as well as our residents on the best way that we can approach these issues. And from what I'm telling you, from what the residents have told me and the contractors who work with the town is we need more planning examiners. We got to be open on weekends, and we got to make ourselves more accessible to the people. And we got to put ourselves in a situation where if someone goes, it's one-stop shopping. They go to the planning examiner. They say to the planning examiner, okay, these are my applications. And the planning examiner, rather than looking at it in a very narrow view and then sending that person home and then coming back and realizing that there's 4 other things they have to do, get one-stop shopping. Get somebody in the planning department and in the building department rather, that's going to sit down with residents, with contractors, and sit down with them and tell them what they need to do at one meeting and not bring them back 4 or 5 times. That's going to require us to hire more planning examiners. That's what I think makes a lot of sense. That's what I think we should do. And again, opening it up to the people on Saturdays and Sundays so that those people that can't afford to take a day off of work, they have the opportunity to come and be able to interface with our building department. Those are concrete solutions, not amorphous ideas of having an audit and spending all this money to a New York City audit firm. And by the way, I understand that correct me if I'm wrong, Commissioner, is your cousin Was your cousin on the presentation committee of Ernst & Young?
I think
He's back there. Well, he told me he was, and basically he wanted to be recused from that process, and he stated that. So I don't know why we would do that, because that in and of itself would create a public relations and perception problem in the town.
Well, Ms. Sinclair, I see you shaking your head.
But excuse me, I think that Councilwoman King Sweeney has some proposals that she made that I think that would be a big improvement.
Could you speak to that, please, Ms. Sinclair?
Sure. During our first meeting with Ernst & Young, one of the gentlemen presenting had asked Mr. Rotkamp, based on his last name, if his mother or cousin was so-and-so. And they discovered at that meeting that they were second cousins. And what Mr. Rotkamp requested was an opinion that they would not violate the ethics law by Ernst & Young appearing before us and being chosen.
So he didn't even know he was his cousin?
No.
Okay. And Mr. Rotkamp voted, didn't he?
He submitted his recommendation
Yes.
and his scoring, as everyone did, to procurement. And then we also submitted his concerns, I believe, to Ethics Council as to whether or not this second cousin would constitute a violation of ethics rules.
Okay, but
Mr. Rotkamp, could you please come down here?
they're going again. But Ms. Sinclair, wouldn't you agree that it creates a perception problem? Because if Ernst & Young comes back and says the building department's doing great, they're doing fine, someone's going to say, Commissioner Rotkamp's cousin was on the presentation committee. Isn't that a perception issue that we'd have to deal with?
Well, I think I have a lot of confidence that they would not come back and say everything's going well. Secondly, I would say that in light of all of the other conflicts that we find here, a second cousin that's been removed, that was determined by our ethics committee not to be a violation of ethics rules, would not be an issue for us.
And is a second cousin a relative?
Can I finish
I don't
my
think a second
inquiry?
cousin is
So, Ms. Sinclair, so you could identify areas where the building department could improve?
And we've been discussing it with the commissioner for the last 19 months.
You could do that, right?
What I'm saying is that
Then why do we have to hire an auditor?
the need to look into their operations and to find a pathway for them that includes an evaluation of their staffing levels, of their policy and procedures, and how they are handling the business of the town's constituents needs to be looked at by an outside source.
Do we need more planning examiners?
We agree with that. And in fact, we've hired staff since we've been here. But staffing isn't the only issue, because staffing does not.
What other issues are there other than staffing?
When we requested a policy and procedures manual from that department, we received a thick stack of contradictory emails, opinions on various issues with no consistency or a way to implement them successfully throughout the number of employees in that department.
Can we do that internally without having to spend $300,000 to $600,000?
I was told with confidence by the commissioner and his deputies that that is their policy and procedures manual that they stand by, and that is simply unacceptable.
Thank you, Ms. Sinclair.
who?
Thank
Who's
you,
it
Ms.
unacceptable
Sinclair.
to?
I don't understand what you're, please, if you speak just a little bit slower so I can understand what you're saying. You're saying the building department told you that if they hired, they could not hire more people, or if they hired more, what are you saying? I don't understand.
She's talking about a policy.
Now, please let her explain it to me if you don't mind. Go ahead, honey.
There has been a demand for staff since we got here, and since
Yes.
that time, we've been working with the commissioner, and he has hired several people to replace them.
He has?
Yes, he has. And I believe through attrition and through the way that the budget's been structured, he's been unable to get to his staffing levels that he was in prior years. We don't disagree that there's a staffing issue. What I think looking at all of this is that in addition to site plan reviewers, you do not have a functioning planning department with planners in it. You can't even effectuate the current zoning.
I think that's a very important point. We have a planning department that has no planners in it.
Supervisor, may I speak? You're not being very nice. Just wait. First of all, this is what listen, I don't want that. But I need to understand what you're saying. Say it to me again, because she's disturbing me.
About the staffing levels?
Yes. So I know we needed staff because many people retired.
Yes.
So we were really low on staffing. Okay, and then we're not hiring people. We had people who were working part-time, no longer any part-timers. So there are many loopholes in that department. We don't have anyone to do the work. In addition to the fact that they're sitting on top of each other. And we don't have enough space for them. Now, did you go through the space? Because I went down to look at it myself because I want the improvement. But I want people to have a space to work. I want them, we can move out, but we're not. We have a whole big section there sitting with 2 or 3 people sitting, and when they could just move out and it could really give them more time. In addition, all the people that left here, how many left and how many have been rehired?
I believe total who have left 2017, and because, again, of the way that the budget's been structured, when those folks retired, there weren't salary lines for the commissioner to hire new folks. So we have allowed, off of the state tests that were available, I believe hired 3 folks, and also, too, just a point you made, there are still part-time employees in that department. They still all remain. And he has been able to also hire a couple of part-time employees. Again, I don't disagree that the staffing levels are concerning, and that, again, because of the way that the budget was structured so that he could not replace those folks, that he has been placed in a position. We were never on a different page with that. In addition, I also asked him for a space plan that would contemplate utilizing the site directly across from him, and been working with the commissioner and DGS to find a way to accommodate his space needs. Because, again, I don't disagree that space is an issue there.
Why is the communications department in the building department? And why are the planning examiners separated? I understand that the commissioner...
I think the commissioner needs to answer that question, not Ms. Sinclair.
Can
Commissioner Rockham, can you please come down?
Supervisor, I'm in the middle of...
I am the chair of the meeting. You can go through the chair, Mr. Blakeman.
I am not going to allow you or anybody else to interrupt me. I never have and I never will. So let me finish, and then you can run the meeting the way you want. But I was talking, and you can't cut me off. So, Commissioner Rodkamp, I understand that there was a request made to the supervisor's office to move the communications department out of the building department. Is that correct?
Yes, Councilman, that is correct.
And you were denied that?
We're starting to work in that now.
You're starting to work on it now. Were you denied that or not?
Mr. Lockeruba, did you deny that request?
I asked for this a year and a half ago, and we're starting.
You asked a year and a half ago, and they haven't done it. Okay.
That is untrue.
That is not true. That is true, what he's saying, because I was there, and I do know what happened. And I'm listening to you now. I'm listening to you now because I really want it to work well. We do. I think everybody up here. So some of the things that you're saying I've never heard. I would have appreciated it if you had said something to us. We are here as board members. We're not here all day as you are. You know, I'm here a lot, and I shouldn't be as much as I am. But I really would like to know, because we really want to do what's best for our residents. So if, working together, I think is what we need to do.
I think while we're talking about staffing, I have a couple of questions, because obviously it made the news yesterday, and we're talking about staff, we're talking about our employees. And I have to ask the question, and if we have to go into executive session, I will make that motion. But yes, at yesterday's press conference, the supervisor said that her office has received countless complaints about alleged corruption in the building department. Now, I'm a little confused because the town board, I'll ask my colleagues, have any of you heard anything from the supervisor's office with regards to alleged corruption?
Absolutely not.
So, I don't know if we have to go into executive session, but where's the corruption? Who did it? What was it about? This is stuff that needs to be answered. And you had a press conference. I guess none of the other Democratic senators from Long Island were available yesterday, but Senator Brooks mentioned that if we don't pass the audit today, I guess a veiled threat from a state senator, very nice, he said that if we don't pass this audit today and vote to have the audit in the town of Hempstead, that he is going to have the state conduct an audit. Well, if that's going to be done, then you know what? Why are we spending $330,000 on Ernst Young? Let's call Senator Brooks and have him pay for it.
Excuse me, I'd move that we go into executive session. There's something here that needs to be said, and I really don't want to say it out here. Second. Okay, all in favor?
Aye. John, if you would stay there, I have a few questions for you. Okay, thank you.
You have a break.
Well, Mr. Lester would always try to respect that line, even if Mr. Lester's here. I hope you're right. They should. They should go together.
I told her already. Told her you better calm down, stop sounding so angry. I said the content of what you're saying, yeah, the content's fine. It's her approach. But I told her it was coming. I warned her, so she shouldn't be shocked or mad. And I try to give her a heads up to avoid that, so that you know it's coming, just nice and calm. And I keep telling her don't fight with me. Just it's not worth it. It's a 6-on-1, and that's what we have now. 6-on-1, to drag her in the back. This doesn't benefit her at all. And when she gets combative, she looks horrible. Her eyes get big. She leans into the mic. Her mouth gets she's got to calm the fuck down. Oh, that's what I walked over and told her. So she's got to calm down. I warned you. Yeah, I said, I told you this was coming. But I let her know, you know it's coming. And, yeah, no, I got you. Well, but Sylvia, if she was getting blindsided and she got a little upset, that's one thing. But I took her in the back and told her that this was going to happen. She was ready for it. And she's still there. And, that's something I try so hard to address and deal with and work on. And she can't help herself sometimes. No, we're on the same page. And I already said it to her, and I'll remind her as she walks by, again, when this is over, to calm the fuck down. This looks really bad.
And we had
And she's like, are you coming in the